Skipper, the week of round one, is it any different to the weeks previously?
Well, it's probably a touch more exciting because you know the game's coming up, and it's one of those things. I think you're building through the pre-season. You have a couple of JLT Cup games, and now it's for points. So I think that's what all the players look forward to.
In terms of Nick, now we have to ask the question: how did he go on the session last Friday?
Yep.
And your confidence in terms of seeing him out there on Sunday?
Yeah, well, he played 60 odd minutes at East Perth the week before. Trained with us, did quite well. So I'd assume he'd be definitely in the mix, and providing he pulls up fine, without giving it a headline, I'd say he'd be playing. So just depends on how he goes through this week.
How much is a boost to see him as a playing group?
Well, I think any time. Someone like Nick and the person he is, but any time your better players are fit and coming back and missed a lot of football, you always want them to do well and come back in. So we've Eric McKenzie, Mitch Brown, Lecker as well. So they've all been no different. So we're excited for Nick that he's got back and got his fitness and can hopefully play.
And how much of a difference to the midfield? I mean, we saw it a couple of weeks ago against Fremantle.
Yep.
Seemed to struggle to get hold of the footy.
Well, that's one of his strengths, and that certainly helps us in our game. Is ruck tap's always important, so you know roughly where they're going, and then you can get the ball played in your half. That's what football's all about. So we'll be happy when he plays, but we're also trying to put the message across is that just because he's playing doesn't mean we're going to win by 10 goals every game. It's still a team performance. So we want Nick to be able to still find his feet, and that'll be the balancing act. Is everyone will be expecting him to be superstar in his first week back, but it'll take a little bit of time.
How long, in terms of the message for the fans, you tell us sort of almost temper that excitement?
Yeah.
Because he'll be a difference, but maybe not the difference, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there's always been a lot of expectation on Nick, just because of the way he plays the game, but what he does for West Coast, but for AFL in general and WA, and everyone wants him to do well. So it just takes a little bit of time, I think, just to find your feet. We've seen in previous years players coming off a long break, especially like knees are a year. Just takes you a little bit to get a feel for the game and get your confidence back.
Have you noticed anything about him in the last fortnight or so? Maybe a spring in the step because he has been back out there, and round one is a realistic possibility?
Yeah, there has been, and I think that's what he's always been working towards for the pre-season. And the more you get through training, the more confidence you get, and certainly his last 3 or 4 weeks, he's been pretty happy and back jumping around. What's
he been like on the track? Has he been pretty vocal out there?
Yes, he has been. I think, like in a normal terms for him. So I think initially you just want to get through training. Everyone's pretty excited, but now he's got quite a lot of confidence. He's back to being himself, and pretty good influence on the group.
I think Adam Simpson said last week was a pretty heavy week given the result on the weekend before against Freo. What was it like for the playing group? Did you notice an increase in standard or the hardness of it?
A little bit, but I think when you have 2 weeks out before a game, you've got to somehow try to replicate a bit of a game in between that. So we did that Friday. And no doubt we're just working on things we've been trying to work on throughout the whole year, and a couple of things that popped up in the JLT series. So as a player, I reckon all pre-seasons feel hard, but it's just making sure you got yourself right, got enough running your legs, understand what's going to be going on, how we want to play, and making sure that you perform pretty much.
How much do you think you've made those tweaks that you needed to from that Freo game now for Sydney?
Well, it's an ongoing thing. I mean, it just doesn't change in a day or in a week, but I believe so, yes. So we've been teaching it and talking about it throughout the whole pre-season and training it, and it's just going to be a continuation from that.
How much do you expect Nick Nat to play out forward while he?
Well, I'm not sure really. I'm really not sure. I'd say he'd spend a little bit of time there for sure, but I couldn't tell you how much he'd be. I'd say when he plays, his number one thing is playing ruck, so he'd probably be doing that, and then at times maybe resting forward, and then at times probably going on the bench.
And in terms of his spring, there's a lot of fans wondering, is it going to be the same as it was before? You've seen him up close to training.
Yeah.
What have you seen?
It's been similar. So I haven't really noticed any difference. So it's just felt normal pretty much. You have to ask some mids, when they're jumping around there, but from afar seeing him jump, it seems normal.
Can you tell us about Liam Ryan? It looks like he's sort of done enough from the outside to make his debut, and we'll be launching a couple of long bombs to see if he can take a big hang. Yeah, well, there's a couple of guys that have done really well through pre-season, and Liam's been one of them. So his main strength is his goal sense and
ability to be able to find space for himself, and that's what got him drafted, and I suppose that's what stood out over the pre-season. So for him, we just expect him to be able to put some good pressure on, and as a forward, you want to be able to kick goals. So if he can do that, I certainly think that goes a long way to helping us win. And then certainly for his leaping ability, he seems to just be able to jump off one step, which is quite rare.
Do you let him go for those leaps? I think in that Dockers game he launched himself at a couple and didn't take them, maybe even gave away a free kick.
Yeah.
Has he got a bit of a licence to do that, or is he got a temper that?
No, well, all players always encouraged to be able to play to their strengths. You don't want to knock out natural flair or ability in players too much, but on the flip side with that, still needs to be able to fit into the team structure. So it's no different than Jeremy down back, McGovern. Mate, if someone's in a better position, let them take a mark. But if you think you can mark it, mate, you go for it. So we always encourage players to, I suppose, play. Well, it's play with their natural ability and what they believe is right and what they believe they can do, and then it's just tempering when it's not quite working, and then when it's working, how they can get better.
I know you can't bet, but who would you tip to kick the first goal at Optus Stadium from your team?
Wow. I'd assume it'd be a forward because they'd be playing in the goal square. I'll go with Darling, Jack Darling, I reckon.
How's Willie Rioli going, Shane? Did he play in that game last Friday, the intra-club hit out?
Yeah, he did a bit of training, which is good. So Willie's just coming along. He's had a couple of interrupted things, which has been just a bit disappointing for him because he's starting to hit his straps really well. So he'll be another player that when he's up and going and he's fit, he'll certainly be able to add to our team and either influence game day or when he's at East Perth, he'll be able to play some really good footy and push for selection.
Is he a bit behind the 8 ball, do you think, in terms of round 1 selection?
I don't think so. I think he'd certainly still be in the mix. Personally, from a player's point of view, you always want to have a uninterrupted run going into the season, but sometimes you can't get around that. So I think from a player's point of view, you want to make sure you've done most of the pre-season, which he's done, and then you just want to get your body right and be able to play.
What do you think of that new look forward line without JK down there? What are you expecting from them?
Well, it's going to be, I think Simo's touched on it a couple of times, it's going to be a bit young, but with that comes some pretty good excitement and blokes just playing football with, I suppose, a bit more excitement. Not that you get older, not that you don't play for the excitement, but they really want to play the game and do a great job. So been pleased with how they've been going this year, especially being back and playing on them at training. Most of the time they stay pretty dangerous, understand what they're required to do, but more importantly, as I said before, they try to play to their strengths and take the game on. So if you're doing that, you're always a good chance to be able to impact the game.
Shannon, you got one training this week at Optus Stadium. How's it felt? I think it's been pretty limited the amount of times you've been there.
Yeah.
What's it like now? You're feeling more comfortable there?
Well, yeah, certainly. The more times you train anywhere or somewhere, you get familiar with the surroundings. So we've probably had 4 or 5 sessions there and a couple of practice games. So it's feeling quite comfortable. But once again, until you probably play there a fair bit, it'll feel like it was out here at Subiaco. But from a player's point of view, I've always tried to have the mindset of doesn't matter if you're playing country or AFL or MCG here, that it's similar.
Have you noticed the difference though, like in terms of the games they're trying to implement and sort of change around it?
Well, yeah, over the time you do notice a little bit of differences in ground, and we've been at the different end of the spectrum with Subi being longer and skinny, and then you see some of the Eastern States grounds are a bit more wider and shorter. So that is the main difference, and it's just having the ability to understand about space, so how to create space and then how to defend as a team, because yes, they are bigger grounds, but for me, I always believe space is space and working together is that, mate.
It's going to be a big occasion on Sunday for everyone here.
Yeah.
You mentioned the younger players. How do you think they'll respond to 60,000 packed in and
Yeah.
season opener?
Well, it's always a little bit of an unknown, and it's always, I suppose, a little bit of excitement because you don't get to play in front of 60,000 too often. So I think when you come through playing football and when you're in the pre-season, you always try to, it's not so much challenge, but you try to explain that football, you have external things going on, so that's crowd, scoreboard, expectations as well. So you try not to let it bother you too much, but at the same time it does, because you're aware it's there, but it's just coming back and focusing on what you're required to do. So we've got no doubt that even myself would be really excited by the prospect of having so many people there. But it's just trying to get down and knuckle in and do the job.
How important is it that a new home ground, you stamp it straight away?
Well, yes, it is important. So you always want to do well and play well, and that helps yourselves with confidence, and also keeps that perception out there that travelling to Perth is going to be tough, whether it's to play us or Fremantle. So you want to be able to do well, regardless start of the year at a new place. But if it doesn't work, you can still turn it around. So that's something being talking about.
And Sydney, do you feel like that's going to give you guys a really good indication of where you're at?
It's a bit hard to tell, but they've always been a good team, like a very good team. Yes, they didn't quite start well last year, but I know that they play, I suppose, a good, solid finals type brand of football. So they've got some good forwards, midfield and back. So it'll be a good test for sure, but you're never certain how the season's going to play out.
Talk about Buddy and maybe the match up there. Is it McGovern or Barras or?
It'd probably be both of those blokes, I'd say, for sure. He's got quite good attributes, Franklin, because he can run quite well and he can still take a mark. So Barras can do that. So will McGovern. And then I suppose it just depends on whether someone like Schofield comes into the mix as well.